everyone, I am Shrestha and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is very relaxed and chit chat kind of a video, but it's still going to be very informative. I'm going to talk about all the accommodation options abroad if you're planning to pursue your masters. And yes, I know it can be really exhausting and it can be a very daunting task to actually find accommodation, and I want to make your life easier. So that's why we're going to talk everything about it. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through various accommodation options one can have if they want to, pursue their masters or studies abroad in general. So let's talk about accommodation. So there are three kind of accommodation. So let's start with the first accommodation, which is your university accommodation. I personally took a university accommodation as well. There are a lot of pros and cons of choosing a university accommodation, but just to start and the things which are on top of my head right away. So university accommodation is on-campus accommodation or nearby your university accommodation. It is managed by the university. It's safe, it's secure, and it has various facilities for students, various amenities for students. Plus there is this whole social vibe because everyone there is student, right? And everything is managed by the university. In fact, in my university accommodation, we got a cleaner every week. Of course, not for your personal rooms, but for the common areas like kitchen, toilets, hallway. Every week that used to be cleaned, so that was really nice. And I hands down say university accommodation is one of the best accommodation out there. If you don't want any headache, if you're going to a foreign city, a country, and you don't know from where to start, so yeah, it's one of the best. But the con on the other side is it's very expensive. You need to book your university accommodation way back, like way prior to your starting of the studies actually. So if you start in September, for example, in UK our term time starts in September, you need to book it way before, like somewhere in May, June is even late, like they would prefer April or May. Yes, you have to be this prior to book it. So in some cases your offer letter is not here, in some cases you're not sure what's happening, and then by the time you get all the answers, university accommodation are mostly packed. So yeah, that's one of the con I will say. So generally in university accommodation, there are a lot of on-campus accommodation, different, accommodation names. Like for University of Edinburgh, we had Bucklew Place, Holyrood, and Kincards. So there was a lot, right? And once they allocate you a type of accommodation and a room, you can't change it. You really cannot change it. So that's kind of a con. If you feel like, okay, this might be a little far from my university or from my particular classes, you can't change it. Once it's done, it's done. And once you sign the contract, you are bound to obey with the contract. So yes, that's a bit about university accommodation. Now my story, why did I choose university accommodation? Firstly, I didn't know much about student accommodation back then. More about student accommodation in further few minutes. And that is the reason I made this video, because I want to give you lots of information so that you can make an informed decision, right? So firstly, I didn't know much about student accommodation. And secondly, because I knew nobody. I had no friends, no family there in Scotland or Edinburgh. I wanted one less worry to think about. I knew it was a bit expensive, but I was okay to splurge a bit, but go to a university accommodation and think nothing about what's gonna happen, do I have to deal with any rental people. So I didn't want to deal any of it. And plus university accommodation is inclusive of all bills. You just pay complete amount every month, or you can divide it per semester, or you can give it in one go, whatever suits you. They have a lot of payment options. That's also a plus. So you just pay an amount and then it's included of everything. You don't need to think about your electricity, council tax, water or anything. So that was a plus for me. And plus it's very safe, secure. Anything happens university, you can just go to them and they will sort it out. So that was really nice. But there's another very nice option, which is option number 2, student accommodation. And I have a really nice recommendation for you guys. Yes, I've done some work so that I can give you a nice recommendation, and that's Amber. Yes, they are in more than 150 plus cities, and they provide you end-to-end assistance. They have so many properties, and they are there in most of the major cities of the world. And like I said, the people there, contact place, the agents would help you from end to end, right from choosing what's the best property for you, of course fitting your budget, and then choosing a property, and then from henceforth selecting it, payments, and after even you reach there, if you have any issue, they are there to help you. So I really liked the whole concept, and I have a referral link which I'm going to put in the description box below. It's a referral link, but please feel free to use it. So coming to student accommodation, it's very similar to university, but it's not linked to university, but it follows the same sort of pros, that it's very, very safe, secure. Of course, you have other students out there because it's a student accommodation, so there is various social amenities and other opportunities to just go along. And apart from that, you can find lots of student accommodation near to your university. But I would again suggest that do a thorough research, because all these options really depends upon your budget, your personal preferences as well. Like I said, university accommodation creates that close-knit community. Student accommodation would do the same. There is close proximity to the campus for both sort of accommodations as well. The other thing is, though even for student accommodation you should book prior, they are still very accommodative. Like if you are in a hurry or you are doing a last moment thing, they are still pretty accommodative. They would still try to find the right property for you. Though I would say, book it prior so that you do not have any stress. The last thing you need to stress about while relocating to a completely new place is accommodation. So do it prior, clear it out, sort it out, so that you can enjoy your relocation. With university accommodation, though there's a lot of privacy and a lot of flexibility, but remember, you're still answerable to the university. Usually for every accommodation they have a resident advisor, so you are answerable to them. There's still a decorum you have to maintain, and somewhat it's similar to the student accommodation as well. So yeah, please check out Aimboard, and if you have any questions, either comment them below or you can reach out on DMs. And the third option is renting an apartment, either through a landlord or an estate agent. And I would like to say a no to it, because oh my god, here is the fun part. I would actually like to share some experiences of mine, plus some stories I gathered through the students when I was a student, right? So what happens with renting an apartment? First of all, to not go this route if you have no idea about the country, okay? I'm not scaring you, but it's a bit scary, like what I am trying to say here. Now, if you don't have any idea about the rental laws, कि कैसे एक property choose करेंगे, क्या करना चाहिए, what are the do's, don'ts, if somebody is cheating you, what is the right way to rent a property, then I wouldn't suggest, no, don't go for renting property from landlords or, doing this private sort of renting accommodation. Of course, if you're a traveler, if you have traveled around the world, you know how to do it, then by all means go for it. Maybe that's your preferred choice or personal preference, and no judging. I kind of salute you if you can do it, because it's kind of tough, and I will tell you why. You see why I'm stressing a lot on कि अगर आपको उस country का experience हो या नहीं, because it's very different from your home country. Like I'm from India, and बिल्कुल ही अलग है how you rent back in India for students, and here it's completely different. So if you don't know about those rental laws, तो थोड़ा difficult हो जाता है, because these sort of private renting, you need to take care of all the bills as well. And बहुत सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, like when you go to a apartment or when you rent an apartment, you need to make sure वो उसी exact condition में हो जब आप उसको मतलब छोड़ के जा रहे हैं and आपका contract over हो रहा है. And lot of agents and also landlords are so clever. They try to rip off money from you. I have heard so many stories कि मैं अगर उसके बारे में यहाँ पे बात करूँगी ना, ये वीडियो एंड ही नहीं होगी, बट आई विल स्टिल शेयर सम ऑफ देम. तो जैसे ही मेरी खुद की पढ़ाई ख़त्म हो गई थी, आई स्टिल हैड फ्यू मंथ्स इन माई वीज़ा वेयर आई कुड स्टार्ट लुकिंग फॉर वर्क, एंड मेरा स्टूडेंट एकोमोडेशन उतने ही टाइम का था जब तक मेरी पढ़ाई थी. सो वंस दैट गॉट ओवर, आई स्टार्टेड सर्चिंग अराउंड फॉर प्रॉपर्टीज़. तो कुछ कॉमन वेबसाइट्स थी विच एवरी वन सजेस्टेड एंड एवरी वन वॉज लुकिंग फॉर, तो मैंने भी देखना शुरू कर दिया. देयर वॉज ओपन रेंट, गम ट्री, राइट मूव, जूपला, एंड वहाँ से आई थिंक आई फाउंड समवन ऑन ओपन रेंट, and they had this very beautiful pictures of a house. And उसमें से क्या होता है कि आप apartment share करते हो, because you're a student, you don't need the whole apartment to yourself. So what happens is they do give different rooms to different individuals. You don't have to rent out the whole apartment or the whole house. But होता क्या है, they don't have any sort of, criteria. Some people would give some rooms to a professional, some rooms to a student. They really don't care. But some are like, oh, okay, we just want to give it to the professionals, or we just want to give it to the students. So ये भी depend करता है. So anyway, I found this beautiful room, and I was really eager. I was like, this looks fine, it meets all the needs I want. And I just quickly started the whole process of contacting the landlord. And here where I realized he is kind of either a cheat or ripping me off. So what he said, and if I can find those emails from back 2018, I will, to share it somewhere here. So what did he start to do was, he was like, oh, okay, I have this family out there in London. I was in Edinburgh, right? So they were like, oh, I have this family, वो London में रहते हैं, this weekend I'm going there, so I can't really show you the house. But अगर आप मुझे 150 or 200 pound का deposit दे दोगे, तो I'm going to book this room for you, don't worry. And then you can, whenever I'm back on Monday, I can show you around, and that room is booked and you can move in. And at that point you're like, okay, maybe I don't know the laws properly, but without seeing a property, how am I supposed to just book it and give the deposit? And that's when they start creating a lot of pressure कि no, you should book it, मेरे पास इतनी queries आ रही हैं, it will go off, then you won't have a place. And that kind of sounds like desperation from their side. And I was like, this doesn't sound something right, and it sounds fishy. So मैंने आस पास ना अपने friends के साथ वो discuss किया, and one of my friend got the same email. So what we did then was, हमने उसी property जो उसने हमें pictures भेजी थी ना, हमने उसको इमेज सर्च किया गूगल पे. जब आप इमेज का सर्च करते हो, रिवर्स सर्च, तो आपको ना कई बार पता चल जाता है इमेज आई कहाँ से. एंड दोज वो पिक्चर्स फ्रॉम लाइक सम डिफरेंट स्टॉक काइंड ऑफ पिक्चर्स. वो कोई प्लेस थी ही नहीं, एंड ही वॉज कम्प्लीटली रिपिंग अस ऑफ, एंड ये मैं आपको बता रही हूँ जब आई वॉज ऑलरेडी यूज टू दैट कंट्री. 1 साल में रह चुकी थी, ठीक है. अगर आपको कुछ आइडिया ही नहीं है, सो जस्ट इमेजिन कितना डिफिकल्ट होगा. दिस अनदर स्टोरी, एंड दिस इज काइंड ऑफ रियली रियली सैड, बिकॉज माई फ्रेंड वॉज टेलिंग मी, और ये कैनेडा की बात है, शी इज़ इन कैनेडा, मेरी बेस्ट फ्रेंड फ्रॉम स्कूल. तो शी वॉज टेलिंग मी, ऐसी 3-4 लोगों ने ना क्या किया, उन्होंने सोचा कि हम 3-4 रूम एक अपार्टमेंट का बुक कर लेते हैं, साथ में रह लेंगे. तो वो 3-4 लोग गए, एंड इट्स नॉट लाइक अकेला बंदा कर रहा है. सो ये 3-4 लोग गए, एंड दैट प्रॉपर्टी पर्सन वाज लाइक, हाँ, जो आपको बेसिक खुद का रूम देखना है ना और अपार्टमेंट देखना है, वो अभी देयर आर टेनेंट्स देयर. तो मैं क्या करता हूँ, मेरे पास सेम प्रॉपर्टी है एडजेसेंट, मैं वो वाला रूम आपको दिखा देता हूँ और वो अपार्टमेंट दिखा देता हूँ. इट्स वेरी सिमिलर टू दिस वन. सो दे वर लाइक, ओके, अब स्टूडेंट्स हैं, शुरू में नहीं इतना पता होता, वो कहते ठीक है हमें दिखा दो. तो उन्होंने दिखा दिया प्रॉपर्टी, एंड देन दे रियली लाइक्ड इट. तो उन्होंने डिपॉजिट दे दिया, एंड डिपॉजिट is a good chunk of money. Deposit right now, what deposit we pay? 5 weeks worth of your rent. So that's really good amount of money. So उन सब ने इकट्ठा किया डिपॉजिट और उसे पे कर दिया. एंड ही सेड फाइन, आप मंडे को आ जाना, कीज ले लेना और इस अपार्टमेंट चले जाना जो आपका रियल अपार्टमेंट होगा. दे वर लाइक फाइन. What happens on Monday? They go on Monday only to realize कि वहाँ पे ऐसी उसकी कोई प्रॉपर्टी थी ही नहीं, एंड उसने लिटरली एक एम्प्टी अपार्टमेंट कहीं पे भी XYZ उन्हें दिखा दिया था, एंड देयर वॉज नो सच लिंक टू दैट पर्सन. They never found him back, they never got their money back, and they were completely ripped off. Yes, that's why you got to be careful with these personal private landlords. Now if you're going to go into the technicalities कि कैसे उन्हें नहीं पता चला ये वो, तो I really don't have the answers. When things go wrong, they just go wrong. एंड मेरे पास खुद की इतनी और सारी स्टोरीज़ हैं कि उस टाइम जब मैं घर देख रही थी, एक घर भी क्या, आई वाज जस्ट लुकिंग एट अ रूम, राइट, आई वाज स्टिल अ स्टूडेंट but not a student, and I was trying to look for work, and there was this another person who I found. If I could find the emails, you will know I'm not even lying at this point, but this was such a silly sort of way he started. He said, you know what, I again the story of I am not near my property for a while, but I want you to book it because it's in a very big demand and everything. And then he said कि basically मेरी keys जो है ना वो मेरे पास है, but मैं अभी वहाँ हूँ नहीं, तो मैं क्या करूँगा, you send me the money. And this person was actually asking for the whole amount, not even deposit. He was like, just send me the money over, and मैं क्या करूँगा, I'm gonna send the key and I'm gonna send it through post, and then you can quickly go to the room and just settle in. And I was like, no, big no. By that time I had realized they are all sort of cheats. So yes, private रेंटिंग इज बिट डिफरेंट, बट लाइक आई सेड, अब मुझे 5-6 साल हो गए यहाँ रह के. आई एम अ प्रो. आई हैव अ होल चेकलिस्ट इन माई हेड, व्हाट टू गो थ्रू, व्हाट टू नॉट, एंड हाउ टू गेट अ हाउस or like a whole apartment, and I'm really good at it now. But in the beginning I would refrain from it because guys, इतना ज़्यादा लोड होता है ऑलरेडी रीलोकेशन का कि आप क्यों एक प्रॉपर्टी का हेडेक अपने ऊपर लोगे, राइट? सो दैट्स दैट. बट आई डोंट वांट टू स्केयर पीपल ऑफ. लाइक कुछ लोग होंगे जो कहेंगे भाई हम तो कर सकते हैं, व्हाई शी स्केयरिंग अस ऑफ. इफ यू आर ऑफ दैट काइंड, यू रियली कैन, बट जस्ट मेक श्योर आप पैसे, 1 रुपये, 1 पाउंड कुछ भी नहीं दो विदाउट एक्चुअली सीइंग द प्रॉपर्टी and making sure the landlord is really a true person. Because you know what, my husband when he came here, he was giving his PLAB exam, he was in London, तो उन्होंने भी एक room book किया था with this landlord, and oh my god, that landlord was a nightmare. He would prepare for his exam, and every time he would keep on calling him कि ये नहीं है, ये नहीं है, ये यहाँ से मिसिंग है, वो वहाँ से मिसिंग है. एंड ही वॉज अ वेरी शेडी पर्सन. एंड वहाँ पे रह के ही रियलाइज उसकी लड़ाई हर दूसरे तीसरे दिन नेबर्स से होती रहती थी. कभी कोई पुलिस बुलाता था, कभी वो पुलिस बुलाता था. सो इट वॉज दैट बैड. इट्स जस्ट नॉट दैट कि आप एज अ स्टूडेंट ही रिप ऑफ हो सकते हो, बहुत सारे प्रोफेशनल्स भी ये फेस करते हैं. So again, like I said, please as a student go for a safer option, either your university accommodation. I know the budget really hikes up with university accommodation, or a student accommodation, right? And यहाँ पे in UK students are they don't have to give council tax. That's another thing you have to pay अगर आप एक घर में रह रहे हो apart from the rent. तो यूनिवर्सिटी अकोमोडेशन और स्टूडेंट अकोमोडेशन में दोनों में वेवर्ड ऑफ होता है, बट अगर आप पर्सनली कहीं रेंट करोगे तो आपको वो देना पड़ेगा. इट्स नॉट अ प्रॉपर्टी मैनेज बाय स्टूडेंट्स, सो द लैंडलॉर्ड वुड आस्क यू टू पे द काउंसिल टैक्स. So there are some final tips I would like to give before I wrap up this video in respect of whatever accommodation you choose. First thing is search early, search extensively, and make sure you book early, okay? एंड क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़ा स्ट्रेस होता है कि हम रहेंगे कहाँ, अगर आप इसे पहले ही सॉर्ट आउट कर दोगे इट विल बी सो मच बेटर. सो विथ एम्बर दे हैव देयर ओन डैशबोर्ड, दे हैव देयर ओन वेबसाइट, यू कैन सर्च इट and they will give you the results, or you can fill in contact form and somebody from their team will contact you. In fact मेरा भाई खुद एम्बर में काम कर रहा है. apart from his personal whole development, he is doing such a fab job. He has helped so many students out there कि मैंने आगे से खुद बोला कि I should and want to recommend Amber. So yeah, you should really check them out. And आप बहुत सारा टाइम दो to research the right property for you, because you're going to live there for 1 year. So make sure it's not a very hurried up decision. So take your time and do this research well ahead. Tip number 2, कंसिडर योर बजट एंड योर प्रेफरेंसेस. कहाँ आप रहना चाहोगे. बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटी अकोमोडेशंस जो होती हैं राइट इन द मिडल ऑफ अ वेरी बिजी प्लेस नियर द यूनिवर्सिटी होती हैं, कुछ थोड़ी दूर होती हैं, बट आपके पास चॉइस नहीं होता. स्टूडेंट अकोमोडेशंस का भी सेम लॉजिक होता है, बट अगर आप थोड़ा सा यूनिवर्सिटी के हसल बसल से थोड़ा सा दूर रहना चाहते हो तो यू कैन चूज दैट. सो दैट ऑल्सो इज सॉर्ट ऑफ योर प्रेफरेंस. सो थिंक अबाउट दीज थिंग्स वेल अहेड. टिप नंबर 3, रिव्यू चेक द रिव्यूज ऑफ दीज accommodations. एंड अगर यूनिवर्सिटी accommodations है फिर तो वैसे ही टेंशन नहीं है, बट यू कैन ऑलवेज गो थ्रू द फेसबुक ग्रुप्स, चेक आउट विद द एल्यूमिनाई. जैसे कोई भी अगर यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एडिनबरा के लिए अप्लाई कर रहा है, सो आई वॉज इन बकलू प्लेस accommodation, यूनिवर्सिटी की accommodation है. यू कैन DM me एंड आई कैन गिव यू रिव्यू ऑफ द accommodation. तो ऐसे ही आप एल्यूमिनाई ढूंढो, उनसे पूछो कि कैसी है accommodation एंड दे विल ऑफ कोर्स टेल यू. और जैसे एम्बर है या फिर कोई भी स्टूडेंट accommodation है, फॉर दैट मैटर ऑफ फैक्ट, उनकी वेबसाइट में हमेशा कुछ रिव्यूज होते हैं, सो यू कैन चेक इट आउट. Number 4, especially for people who are brave and want to go for the rental route with private landlords right away. आप लोगों के लिए प्लीज़ उस कंट्री के रेंटल लॉज को समझो और अच्छे से अपने आप को वेल वर्स्ड करो कि कोई आपको चीट ना कर सके, एंड यू नो एग्जैक्टली what sort of things you are dealing with. So go and understand all the local rental laws so that you are really ready. Okay? And number 5, अगर आप वहाँ पे नहीं हो, यू कैन स्टिल चेक आउट थ्रू वर्चुअल टूर्स. स्टूडेंट accommodation में भी ये ऑप्शन होता है, यूनिवर्सिटी accommodation में भी ये ऑप्शन होता है. कुछ प्राइवेट रेंटल जो कंपनीज होती हैं वो भी देती हैं, कुछ प्राइवेट रेंटल जो लैंडलॉर्ड्स होते हैं वो भी देते हैं. तो एटलीस्ट अगर आप उस कंट्री में नहीं हो, आपको सॉर्ट आउट करना है, तो आप उन्हें बोल सकते हो एटलीस्ट मुझे वर्चुअल आप टूर दो उस पूरे प्रॉपर्टी का. Okay, and I hope मैंने ज़्यादा डराया ना हो, but oh my god, these things happen and I just want you guys to be safe, and with that make safe choices. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. If yes, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also hit the little bell icon next to it. Meet me in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.